If you're looking for more physical controls in your Tesla, check this out. This is the AS2059 Intelligent Hub Controller. I got this on Amazon for about $45 and it claims to add physical controls to your Tesla. Here's the module itself. It has 4 buttons for instant access to certain functions. There's also long press functionality, and there's a rotary knob. There are USB-C ports on the bottom. One side is to power the unit, and the other side is to extend the USB ports from the storage compartment in your center console. There seems to be an SD card reader down here, although there's no instructions on how to use it. There's a strip of double-sided tape to secure your installation. Here are the instructions, which are very small. I'll go look at their video instead. Here's the main controller. It's labeled as CAN bus. Next is the seat controller module, because you can control the front passenger seat's movement from this, as you'll see. Some mounting tape and zip ties, the USB plugs for power and charger extension. Here's the wire harness. Looks like this plug goes into the CAN bus control box. The other plug is a male-female tap into the stock harness. This side is for the passenger seat controls. That's all that's included. Let's see how it works. Here it is installed into the center console. It looks great, to be honest. The materials match that of the interior of my 2023 Model Y perfectly. However, the feel is a bit cheap. The knob's feel is very sloppy and wobbly. You can feel the indents and hear the clicks, and that's good, but there's a lot of movement before each click. It doesn't feel very tight. The button labels are also hard to read in the daytime, but if you have used this for a while, you'll probably remember what each button is for, and you won't need to read the text. The text is supposed to be lit, but you can't tell in the daytime. See up close? You can see the chill mode is lit in red. Changing modes highlights the current mode, but you won't be able to see this from the driver's seat in the daytime. The screen on the dial is also barely visible, and that's more of a problem than the buttons because you rely on this to tell you which function you are manipulating. There are no brightness settings, as you'll see later. Let's go over the 4 buttons. These are preset and not configurable as in other more expensive brands. This is the auto AC toggle to set if you want to use the AC for the climate control. It's pretty useful for those that want to maximize efficiency. You rely on the knob's display or the button lighting to show you the status. But like I said, it's really hard to see in the daytime. So visibility is needed to see what's happening. Long holding this button for about 3 seconds folds and unfolds the mirrors. I find this to be actually somewhat useful. This one is for the acceleration mode. It shows chill or standard. If you have an upgraded acceleration boost, your Tesla screen shows chill or sport, but this only shows standard. The text next to the button shows its current state along with the knob's display. There's no long hold function for this button. This button here toggles the rear power window controls. If it's locked, only the driver has control over the windows in the rear. I imagine this is useful if you have kids. Long pressing this moves the front passenger seat forward a bit. Holding it longer does not keep it moving. It's a preset amount of distance. This last button here opens the glove box, which is easier than using the touchscreen. It's probably the best function of this device. Long pressing this button moves the front passenger seat back a bit, and just like the forward movement, it's only a preset amount of distance. Now this brings me to the knob, because these buttons, when long pressed to move the seats, brings up the function on the knob also. And you can now move the seats with the knob, forward and backwards. This holds true with the other functions as well, such as toggling the AC, the acceleration mode, and the mirror folding. But since those are just toggles, it's not really much of a difference than just clicking on the buttons. Whereas moving the seat requires repeated use to move it forward and back, and the knob would be easier to use in this situation. As for the knob, the home screen shows a logo of the front of a Tesla. It goes back to this screen if you haven't used it for a few seconds, which becomes an annoyance in real-world usage. Here's all the functions on the knob. As you saw, we have volume, track selection, fan speed, adjustment of the passenger seat, child locks for the doors, the mirror folding function, rear AC fan control, and the light color setting. Lastly, the settings. All those functions are self-explanatory, so let's go through the color settings. you get 9 color settings. Auto will cycle through all the colors. And you can also leave it off. It does look pretty cool at night, even though it's just a light show. It gives the minimalistic Tesla interior a little bit of style. Whether you like that or not, that's a personal preference. For the settings, there's not much to change. Under the function item, you get only 2 choices. It shows the order list of 221 or 121. 121 sets the fan speed as the first item available, followed by the audio controls. If you set it to 221, it prioritizes the music controls. So you get volume, then track selection, and then the fan control, and then the remaining items. On paper, it seems like this is a solution for people like me who prefer direct physical controls rather than reaching for the touchscreen. However, in actual use, this device, with the way it's set up, does not deliver on most of these benefits. I would say the best feature would be the direct access to the glove box, which would otherwise require 2 touches on the touchscreen. Folding the mirrors with the long press here is also handy. Acceleration mode is something I rarely change, as I drive with FSD over 90% of the time, but for those that like to play around with this a lot, it could be a handy function to access easily. It does not update the Tesla screen display though, so you'll have to rely on the status light to see its current mode. I don't really need to move my seats, or if I do, I can reach over on my own to use the actual controls, which are way faster. Other users might find this useful, but I don't, and if you don't need this, you can even skip installing the seat module. As for the knob, requiring you to wake it first and then enabling the function on the screen before the twist does anything makes it actually more complicated than the original controls of the car. For example, you can use the steering wheel controls for the volume and it's a direct single-step procedure. But to use the knob, assuming you've already set up the volume as the first function in the settings, you need to first wake the knob, which puts it into the first function. Then push down to select that function, and then twist to adjust the volume. That's 3 steps to adjust the volume. And trying to set this up to skip tracks is a multi-step process because you cannot set track skipping as the first selection. You'll have to wake the device, twist it to the correct function, push in to select the track select function, and now twist to skip. The steering wheel is a single process and you can also touch the screen, whereas using the knob is like 4 steps. Wake, change, go into it, twist. There's too many steps, more so than the factory procedure. As for the other functions, it depends on your use case. I think if you have kids or you have a situation where you need to control the windows and moving the seats a lot, it could be useful. But I bought this for the purpose of easily doing things without needing to use the touchscreen or doing certain functions easier while driving. However, I realized that with full self-driving, I can use the touchscreen and still be safe. On a straight road or low traffic routine driving situation, looking away for a second or two to manipulate the touchscreen is fine, so I didn't find having dedicated physical buttons to be all that useful. Even for those that don't use FSD or full self-driving, the poor programming or implementation of the knob makes this worse than the factory setup. I really don't have a reason to use the knob as designed. It could have been great, but as it is, it's a great glove box opener, mirror folder, and a drive mode selector. And that's about it. The rest of this video will be the installation process. You install it into the center console by first inserting the USB cables, angled side on the bottom. Once you have both of them installed, attach it to the unit itself, and then place the unit diagonally. Make sure that both edges are underneath the silver rail, and then you just slide it in. Next, we're going to install the control modules into the wiring of the car. For safety, go to the screen, go to safety, and say power off. The main control box goes into the side, so open up your passenger door first, pull off the door seal. It simply pulls off, it's held on by friction. Pull it all the way off till this line here, because you're going to have to remove that trim piece up to that line. You may notice my seat panel is held back. I'll show you later on what that's for. That's for the seat controls. This is just recorded out of sequence. Next, we get to this small upper trim piece. It simply pulls out and up. Next, remove this fastener for the lower, larger trim piece, and the whole thing just pulls away. You could pull it towards the back to release that front section and then pull it up for the lower section. Next is this cover here that is part of the carpeting. It's another fastener just like the previous one you just removed. Fold that flap back so it's out of the way, and now you can see the wiring. The connector is annoyingly behind this thick orange power cable here. Carefully guide the CAN bus connector around the cables and it will go in like this. It does take a bit of finesse. I sliced off the big label on the wire itself to make it easier to manage. Next is this, and it's easily installed. Take off the original, plug in the one from the aftermarket harness, and then plug the factory one into the aftermarket harness. Now you can connect the CAN bus control box into the harness, and you can just tuck it away. There's a bit of an open space right here, and it's a nice fit. Tuck all the wires away and neatly. I'd followed the channels for the original factory harness here. Now you can close that flap up. Now onto the seat controller. If you want to install it, there's a bolt underneath the passenger seat on the outer corner here. It's a bit hard to see. My finger is pointing to it. It's a bit hard to get a tool in there because it's kind of recessed, so you need to use a socket. This is an 8mm, but then once it comes out a little bit, my wrench reached the guide rail. So once you loosen it, you might have to just do it by hand, or if you have some really shallow sockets. With that bolt removed, you can kind of peel back this side molding to access what you need. You don't need to peel it all the way off. At about a 45-degree angle towards you, it should be enough. Fish the wire harness through so that the end that connects to the control box comes out here. Then disconnect the factory plug from the factory control box and plug in the aftermarket harness. Plug the factory plug into the pass-through side of the aftermarket harness. Tuck all the wires away neatly and you can re-secure this side piece. There's only one snap, and then put the bolt back on. Plug in the seat control box. I secured it to the seat this way with double-sided tape and a zip tie for securement. With that done, move the seats back and forth, make sure the wires don't snag or get caught in the rails. At this point, you can also check the functionality of the device using the seat movement buttons. Now make sure all the body panels are back on there nicely and the install is complete.